Welcome, everyone, to the Songwriters on Process podcast. My name is Benno Papari, and on this podcast, I take a deep dive into the writing process behind some of the world's best songwriters. By way of background, I am a former English professor. I have a PhD in English language and literature, and I'm a writer myself. So this is a conversation about writing between two writers. My goal has always been to treat songwriters the same way that we treat prose writers, just as writers, plain and simple. So that's all we focus on. I don't care about tour stories, favorite bands, how bands get their name, favorite foods, anything like that. This is, again, a deep dive into the songwriting process with some of the world's best songwriters. And with that, let's get into today's episode. And today on the pod, it is Lolo Zouaï. Zouaï's latest album is called Reverie. It is out now. And this could be the first person I've interviewed who sings in two languages on the same album. So Zouaï was born to a French mother and an Algerian father, but moved to San Francisco when she was very young. And so the album it alternates between French and English. And one of the things that we discussed was which language she decides to sing in. There's at least one track that alternates between both languages, but does one language offer better opportunities for melody because of the sounds of the language? Certainly the sounds are different in French and English, or maybe does one language offer a more specific meaning for what she's trying to go for? So that was, I love that part of this interview here, and you need to listen through it, listen to the end, because she does say that we talked about writer's block, of course, and she said when she's in a rut, there's one room in the house where she's almost always able to break through that rut. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You got to listen, but I've had other songwriters tell me that too. There's one room where she goes in there and it's like, wow, right? The ideas happen. One more thing then, which I found we are a kindred spirit, and that is rather than working on one thing and seeing it all the way through to its ending, we both like work on multiple things at the same time. I'm not saying that's better than the other way, but some people, again, will work on one thing and see that through. But we both realize that we both like to work on three or four things, or maybe more at the same time in bits and pieces. I tend to operate that better that way. So yeah, a lot of good stuff here. The album is called Reverie. Again, it is out now. A little bit more about her. She opened up for Dua Lipa on Dua Lipa's 2022 World Tour. The album really has some good R&B, some pop, some hip hop. She's an extremely talented songwriter, so check out the album. Again, it is called Reverie. Here's my interview with Lolo Zouaï. Well, so I always start with a very simple question, and that is, do you think it's important to create in some fashion every day? Some artists, because if you ask prose writers are very, very adamant that you've got to get butt in the seat every day and create in some fashion, no matter how bad it is. But I don't find that songwriters are as universal in that sentiment. So where do you fall in that? Any creating in some fashion, whatever it is, every day.
I mean, musically, I don't agree that you have to do it every day because I think it's so important to take breaks from writing music. For me, at least, I actually go weeks without writing a song. So for me, I love that. But I mean, we're kind of creative in other ways, like cooking, I would say, is creating something. So I think that as a creative person, I'm always creating. I love editing videos. I love doing all that kind of stuff. But since music and songwriting is my career, I just get burnt out sometimes and I need to live and not put that pressure.
So are those deliberate breaks? Or is it, oh, you know what? I feel like I'm forcing things and I need to set things aside for a few days. So for me, like my breaks are more deliberate, like I won't do certain things on the weekend, whether it's trying not to answer work emails or things like that. But are those breaks deliberate for you? And is it hard sometimes during those breaks to maybe not create?
I think for me they're not deliberate because I think that I just don't feel like writing sometimes, to be honest. And then And then if I change my mind and I have like a burst of creativity at midnight, I'm just gonna go for it. And I actually have a interesting way of writing songs. Like sometimes I'll be working on 6 different things and I just write 1 or 2 sentences and then I get annoyed with it. So I say, I'm gonna put this to the side. Then I work on something else, 1 or 2 words, put it to the side. And then I sit with what I've worked on and then it comes to me at a random time. And so then I choose to finish it. I have to really be in the mood.
Oh, so I do the exact same thing.
Okay, great.
So
I love
I'm a
that.
prose writer, not a songwriter,
Yeah,
but I love that you said that because I feel, and it makes no sense, but if I write like, let's say 50 words for like 6 different things,
yeah.
I feel much more accomplished than if I'd written 300 words of one thing because I
Yeah,
feel
me
like
too.
yeah, but why is that? Because I'm the
Maybe
same
we have
way.
ADHD.
I
I
don't know, but don't I feel like I've accomplished something even if I
more.
haven't, if I've started it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have accomplished something, like you're working towards something. But I just feel like it's not natural for me to work on one song for a week or for 2 weeks. I just get bored.
So was that a trial and error thing? Like, how did you discover that?
I think I just discovered it by like this is my 3rd album and I really realized it on this album that I wasn't going to be hard on myself if I couldn't write a song on a specific day and that I was just going to try a different idea. And it just ended up working out for me because I gave myself a lot of time to write this album. And yeah, I found myself being like too emotional sometimes to finish a song or I started crying and I'm like, okay, well, I got the idea out or I think I got some type of emotion out of this. So I'm going to put it to the side. I'm going to work on it tomorrow or whenever it feels right.
So when you're not creating, is there any anxiety? Is there when do you know when it's time to start? Is it like a
Yeah.
big like a is there do you feel that kind of rushing of emotion like all right, enough, it's spilling
Yeah,
over? How do you know when?
definitely. I think for me, having music in the bank, like having songs that aren't released gives me confidence. And maybe it's not healthy, but to put my music with my self-worth, but I kind of do. And so when I feel like I'm putting too much pressure on one project, I like to work on another one so that my brain isn't focused on one thing and I have something to work towards again. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you said that. I feel very relieved because I've always wondered if my process if other people do that, but it's so funny
You're the
because
same way?
like I said, I'd much rather have 5 things going on and do a little bit of something,
Yeah.
um, rather than, like, finish one thing, I'll work on something because I do think also that at some point, your brain just you get in a rut and
Mhm.
and rather than push through, I feel like I'm much more productive if I go work on that other thing
Completely.
because that thing that I was stuck on, I know that somewhere in the back of my mind, something's happening back there, even though I'm not aware of it.
Yeah. No, I had a thought that when you said that, but now I'm forgetting it, which is exactly how I write. Let me think. What was I thinking? Okay, it'll come back to me, but
Exactly
yes,
right.
I
It's going to
agree.
come back to you because that will prove what we're exactly talking about. Um, So I want to go back to the cooking. You mentioned cooking, and I do find
Yeah.
occasionally that that is songwriters use that as a break, or there's something about the monotony of the cooking, the actual sitting in the kitchen where they get song ideas. So is that ever happening for you?
I actually don't think I've ever gotten a song idea from cooking. But I I get I get ideas, like, when I'm in the shower sometimes, like, when I'm just doing random things, but cooking for me, I'm not that creative of a chef, but I just like it because it's a time to kind of, like, not think about anything, to be honest.
I interviewed Lauren Mayberry of Churches. This is probably over 5 years ago. I'll never forget. She told me she gets a lot of song ideas while she's chopping vegetables.
That's pretty funny.
But there's a reason for that. So it's all tied in because you mentioned the shower, and there's an article in the Washington Post a couple years ago about why we get our best ideas in the shower. And it's
Tell me.
related to monotony. So when our brains are engaged in monotonous activities, that's when the ideas bubble up. So the number of songwriters who tell me they get ideas while they are in the shower, or things like gardening, vacuuming, folding laundry. And, Agatha Christie, the writer, I always give every songwriter this one quote because she said the best time to write a book is when you're doing the dishes. So, in other words, eureka moments don't happen when you sit down and think, I'm going to have a eureka moment. It happens when you're doing things not related, whether it's driving.
Exactly.
So, let's talk about that. How often does that happen?
Okay. Actually, it happens to me a lot when I'm on the treadmill on a run. I think, like, when I don't know if you're a runner, but whenever I
Yeah.
run, I get these, like, obviously these bursts of dopamine and these positive thoughts. I'm like, "Wait, I should be running more often. I feel really good." And I come up with so many songs on the treadmill. I have all these recordings on my phone where it's like, like, so out of breath, and then there's this melody, and I'm like, "I'm pretty sure that was good, but can't really tell what it is." And I also actually write songs in my dreams that I can remember, but I don't end up using them, and I'm also a big sleep talker. So I had a phase where I would record my sleep talking. There's an app you can do that. And I actually sampled or I put some of the things into a song one time.
Wait, so it's recording you while you're sleeping, and then it just basically
Yeah.
records when you start to talk in your sleep.
Yeah, it picks up noise, so it kind of just records all night. You have to have your phone charged and then it picks up really soft noises.
Whoa. So what do you use those words for?
I'm just fascinated with what I say, and also because I'm a bilingual person, I speak French and English. I have come to the realization that I dream in both languages because sometimes it's in French, and I find that fascinating.
That I've never heard of that app, but I'm almost afraid to see what that app that's gotta have some pretty
What's it called?
bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called. There's a few of them, but I haven't done it in a while. But when I'm especially stressed, I tend to sleep talk more.
You mentioned emotion writing from, I think, emotional extremes, and do you
Mhm.
find that's a good place to write from, or do you find that extreme emotions, whether it's extreme sadness or extreme euphoria, are more difficult to write from?
Extreme sadness is the best
Really?
place. It's the best place for me to write, or extreme yeah, extreme sadness. I don't think that much of my music comes out from extreme happiness. I mean, it's just better when it's painful. It's just we're artists. It's better. Um, but I was trying for a while to be healthy and write songs about. I actually did some type of experiment where I was like, can I write a song about anything? Like, could I write a song about this water bottle? And it was this. I had a life coach during the pandemic, which is ridiculous. And she is ridiculous. Like, I don't know. I lived in LA for 1 year and got a life coach. Like, who am I? Anyway, she kind of made me do that, and I did it, and then I ended up writing these happy songs, and later I just didn't feel that was truly me. So, it was a great experiment. However, I feel, especially with this album that's coming out, I had to tap in to grief and to all these emotions that I was really avoiding. And it was, like, cathartic, it was. And to me, those are the best ways to write.
So why can't we write? And I don't know the answer to this, but why is it that we don't like to write in times of extreme euphoria? Is it because we just feel
'Cause
like
we're
we want to?
living.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess, right?
we're in the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. But maybe because we don't feel like we have to process those things.
Yeah, because that's kind of like the point of life is to feel that way. And so when we're feeling that way, I feel we just yeah, we enjoy it.
But you can write from dark places. I mean, I ask because I interviewed Lucinda Williams a couple of months ago, and she said that she can write. She has to be in a happy place to write about sadness. So she can't write about
Ooh.
sadness while she's in sadness. She has to be content. So, but it sounds to me like you're telling me that you can write when you're in a pretty melancholy place.
Yes, I can. And it's actually the time that inspires me the most. And it makes me feel like my sadness is worth something.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then do you the when you're writing from those places, are you more likely to revise those lyrics or be more hands off with those?
Mm, usually I do get stuck on those a little bit. But once you're out of that sadness, that's when I can look back and be like, "Okay, maybe I need to change these lyrics." But usually my melodies, I stay pretty set on those, and lyrics take some time, and I like to adjust and find the right way to say something.
So when you're writing about an event, do you need distance from that event, or is immediacy more important?
Distance is better. Distance is better. I like to write about my past. I like in my first album, I wrote a little bit about my childhood, and you see it in a new light, and you start thinking, and you unlock all of these memories. And then for this album, I wrote about, the loss of my really close friend,
Yeah.
which occurred in 2021. And so my I was working on my second album when that happened, and it was so much, it was too extreme of a of pain to be able to write about it then. So I really had to take 3 years, process it as a human, and then be able to finally say, "Okay, it's time. I really wanna write about this," and then I'm gonna relive a lot of emotions, but it was beautiful.
How did you know it was time to write about it? When did you feel like I'm ready?
I just knew. It was like I walked into my studio and I was like, "It's time." And I just did that by myself, and yeah.
Yeah, I was reading an article recently about introspection, like when it's the best time to write about something, and how important introspection is in anything
Yeah.
to write about events because it's a way to process things so easily. Um, but they talk about how distance we typically need distance to be able to write about those things.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to ask you a very specific question about when you write lyrics. Are you a pen and paper person or a computer slash phone person?
Yeah, I'm a notes app girl,
So
unfortunately.
yeah, so why? So and I love that answer. I love the answers to this because people vary widely. Some people like and there's been research on this too. They found, at least with university students, that people retain information better and maintain it better when they use a pen and paper. There's because it's kind of stimulates different part of the brain. And
Mhm.
anything with whether it's a computer or a phone, we tend to be more disconnected from those things. Um, but it sounds
But
like go ahead.
yeah. Well, I guess maybe I don't need to retain it because I'm writing it, you know? Like, I'm I'll learn the song later, you know what I mean? But I also use when I'm recording melodies on the Logic app, like where I record my songs, there's a little notes section within the system, and so, like, it just makes sense for me to write that way, and then, yeah, I put it in my notes app, but I it is true that then I tend to get distracted, go on Instagram or something in between. Um, I have written songs on pen and paper, and I do this thing called there's you comp your vocals, so, you record, like, 30 takes, and then you pick different words, and I like to do that on pen and paper because I write my sentence out, and then for each word, I'm like, "Okay, take 32, 31." Not each word, but each sentence, and so in that way, I go old school with it.
And when you do use a pen and paper, are you particular to a color of ink or brand of pen or anything like that?
Now whatever's there. It's usually, like, those yellow notepads at the studio. Just flip it. I love those, and then yeah, no, black ink I like.
I don't hear black very often. Rarely do I hear
Really?
black. Oh no, I hear you'd be amazed at the colors, but I rarely hear black. Yeah, isn't that funny? It's almost always something more colorful.
Oh, I would hate that.
Really? Why?
I don't know. I think it would just be too much, too distracting. And I tend to doodle a lot. I think that's also the thing. Pen and paper, I'm like a big doodler. I'll be just writing a bunch of shit everywhere, and then it would just look ugly. And I think there's maybe an OCD aspect of it on notes where I like for it to be really clean. Yeah, that must be it.
You're gonna
Thank you. You're
psychotherapy.
helping me figure myself out.
Psychotherapy session. It's a no charge therapy session.
I'm like, can we do this next Tuesday?
Exactly, like a standing right, if right, a standing date once a week, and we'll talk through these things.
I love it.
So, I wanna also then ask you about the bilingual aspect of the lyrics. So there's still, and please don't quiz me, but I did take many years of French growing up, and I was, like, one class short of a minor in college, but please don't quiz me on it.
Too hard.
I have no there's still this idea in English that the Romance languages are more elegant. English has always had this inferiority complex that the English language is the Germanic languages are more harsh than and less elegant, romantic than French, Spanish, Italian. We still struggle, we as English speakers still struggle with this inferiority complex, which is why it's always perceived as being more elegant. So I'd love to know what is it the sounds? What does French offer from maybe a phonetics point of view that English doesn't, that makes it are there choices that you're making those lyrics where you think this is gonna sound much better in French than English?
French has a way of being able, well, you can stretch French in different ways. Like a word can be pronounced in two different ways. So there is that aspect where everything can rhyme in an easier way. But then also French is pretty harsh. Like the R's don't sound very good. And so sometimes, it doesn't actually sound as good. But I've been told that my French sounds like French from the 60s because I grew up in America. So I kind of have a really simple understanding of the language. I'm fluent, but I don't know the slang. And so I don't even understand like half of the rap songs in French. Like I don't. And so I sing in a really classic, simple way in French. And to me, the 60s is one of my favorite eras of French music. It's just simple and beautiful. And so that's what I like to channel. But I mean, English can be beautiful too, of course. But yeah, there's just some words that don't exist in English or some feelings that don't exist. Yeah.
So how do you know which one to use in those lyrics?
Honestly, if I can't find a rhyme in English, I'm like, maybe let's try it in French. And then it works. Or, it's actually pretty random. Some like if I want to write a song in French, I'll just start there. And there isn't always a reason.
I know, I love it. I was really curious about that because I think there's always that sense still today, that England that the Romance languages are just seen to be more elegant and more romantic, but in that not in the language sense, in the emotional sense.
Yeah. I guess I would feel more comfortable writing about love in French than in English. I don't really write that much about love, but I feel like it is a little bit better in French. And I also just love the simplicity of the language, and I find that I could talk about something more simple. I have this song called Toute seule à la plage, which means alone at the beach. And you knew that though.
I heard
You
plage. I
definitely
did
knew
hear
that.
that, and I said that's beach. I know that.
And the lyrics I feel would sound kind of stupid in English, but in French they sound so good. And the lyrics are just like, this morning I left my house with bread and a cigarette, and I don't know why, but I want to be alone at the beach. And then it's like the wind is touching my hair. I'm laying under the sun. And I'm like, if I said that in English, it would be kind of childish maybe. But in French, it's just sexy.
Well, plage is this it's a softer sound than beach.
Yeah, true. True. Plush.
Exactly.
Beach.
Yeah, right. No, but see,
No,
even though you
true.
said it, even the way you
Yeah.
said it,
Beach.
even no one can
La
see this, but
plage.
it was yeah, but it was if the face you made when you said it, it's a big difference.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I saw an interview with you where you said that And if just if it's changed, let me know. But I think you start with a beat, then go to a melody. And then you said that the lyrics are the hardest part, but your favorite part. And I love that you said hardest but favorite because people typically would say hardest and it's the one that I hate the most. So does that still hold true? And why is it your favorite?
It's the most rewarding once you've figured it out. It can be really fun. It can feel like a puzzle. Sometimes it can come right away, and then sometimes you're there stuck for hours or songwriting with somebody else, and you're both just sitting there in silent on your notepad or your phone, and you find that one sentence, and it's like it's been there the whole time, but you didn't see it. So it's like, ah, finally. Um, and I also really love starting with a song title even before those 3 steps. To me, like, a song title, I'm like, "Okay, it's gonna give me something somewhere to land." And if the song title is interesting, then you can make a story around that song title and find a metaphor and find something. Yeah.
So when do you decide to start with the title?
I have this list on my phone of words that I think are really cool that could be a song. And so I sometimes when I'm stuck or I'm not really sure what to write about, I go to that list. And that's actually how I wrote a few songs on my first album. I remember I really liked the word caffeine because I was like obsessed with drinking this bottled green tea from Japan. And I was like, caffeine is always so related to coffee, but what if I wrote this about, or in my mind, the song was green and it was about green tea. And so then I was like, okay, how can I make this about me? Of course. And I ended up making it be like I'm the caffeine, so I give you energy. So that's what the song is about. It's like sexy little metaphor for me being caffeine.
I love it. That's an amazing answer. So you start with the title
Yeah.
and then do you go to look for lyrics that fit that? Because I could see, I guess, let me say, I'm asking you this because I could see that being a really easy, in a good way
Hmm.
to write a song. Because it's like, here's my subject. Now I have to find lyrics that fit that. So it almost
Yeah.
channels you necessarily to make it more efficient. So is that what happens?
Yes, that's exactly what happens. I even sometimes will think about, well, I'll do exactly that. Be like, okay, caffeine, what words remind me of caffeine? And I'll be like, okay, energy, a soda name, soda. And then even in the production of that song, we ended up using the soda can opening. So it's like a word can fully determine everything about a song.
All right. So be honest with me. Are you ever going to rhyming dictionaries for some of these words?
100%.
I think I haven't asked that.
100%.
Right. I
Like,
haven't.
I'm not ashamed. It's not like it's writing my song and I know these words. It's just efficiency, right?
All songwriters do it, probably, don't they?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie about it.
It's funny. I've not asked that in a long time, but I need to start asking that again because people wouldn't volunteer the information unless I ask it.
No, definitely not. I mean, I don't think it's cheating because it just gives you words and you're like, "Okay, then you have to write a sentence with that word." You're not getting a full sentence.
So uh, when when you're kind of stuck, I'm not going to call it block, but when you're in a rut, um, I always quote the writer Anthony Doerr, and he wrote a book called All the Light We Cannot See. Excuse me, won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction about 10 years ago. And he said, I said, what do you think about writer's block? He goes, I don't believe in writer's block. He said, writer's block is a failure of courage. And his whole thing is don't be afraid to write the bad stuff. You can never get to the good stuff until you start with the bad. But for some people, writing with the bad stuff isn't productive because you're thinking like, why am I doing this? So I guess a two-part question. Do you believe in that idea about writer's block being a failure of courage? And then part two is, do you have any hacks that you use to get through that rut when you're there?
Ooh, that's a good question. I almost agreed with the idea because it's a really cool it is an interesting concept. But I think if you know yourself well enough and you're making something, you just kind of know it's not gonna go anywhere. So, I've had sessions with people where kind of immediately I'm like, "It's not gonna happen," and I still do it, but it's hurting me, and I wanna leave every minute. And then I leave, and I never think about what I made again. And then sometimes I think we just have writer's block, like or it's not that. Maybe it's not writer's block, but it's just like you as a human, you need a break, and you need to find new inspiration. So I think that I've already written the bad songs when I was younger. I wrote so many bad songs that never came out. And now I like everything I work on to be something that is going to come out at some point, whether it's for me or whether it's for someone else. I just love I like writing songs and finishing them. But I guess sometimes you think it's really good in the moment and then you realize it's not.
So that stuff that you write that isn't the best, do you see that as a waste of time, or do you still see that as being productive in the long run?
I see it as being productive because you never know what can happen with that. I've had some demos end up being used for a soundtrack to something, and I've had some demos being pitched for things without me knowing, and somebody else that I worked on a song with being like, "Oh, this person recorded this song." And I also think it's just practice. I think you have to it's yeah, you have to keep making music in order to get better. So it's just practice, yeah.
So back to the hacks then. I will never push through. I feel like if I'm stuck here and if I get up and walk around for 5 minutes, I come back with renewed purpose. Like all I need is a quick break to get me away from it. So that is my simple hack. And I feel like it works every time. Just physically getting up out of this chair and
Yeah.
walking away. So is that what you do?
I've done that, like, walk around the block, get a coffee, get your mind off of it, come back, and get a new perspective. Sometimes it's even just going to the bathroom and peeing. Like, oftentimes, actually, I come up with the block and I'm like, "Oh," and I was just taking a pee, you know? It's just like that mundane thing that you were talking about earlier. Um yeah, it is so important to just be like, let me take a break for a second."
I'm laughing only because the number of songwriters who tell me they get ideas while they're going to the bathroom.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
weird.
so many.
Okay. It's yeah, it's
Y-
a real thing.
yes. So do you have an ideal ritual? So first of all, are you a nighttime person, morning person, or does that matter?
I get real sleepy after 10 PM, so it's like my brain actually shuts off when I'm in the studio after 10 PM, and I'm like, "Ooh, I don't wanna do this anymore." I love a good I think I'm the most productive at 2 PM.
Really?
Yeah, 2 to 3, I love it. That's when I usually go to the gym, that's just when I like to sleep in,
Yeah, I was
so
gonna say, so when do you normally wake up?
I like a 1 AM to 9 AM sleep.
Okay. Oh, that's not that like late because I feel like 2 o'clock is when they say that our circadian rhythm, that's when people are naturally ready to take a nap. So
2 P I don't nap.
yeah. Um, and also I read this recently that we are genetically hardwired to be either morning people or night people, and we can't change it.
I have an Aura ring, and it tells me that I'm a early evening type, so whatever that means.
Is there a favorite room or a place? How important is that to you?
Yeah, I have a little home studio that I made, and it's super vibey. I have my little hue lights, and to me, that's my favorite place to write, and I like to do it alone. And yeah, I think it needs to be moody. The color has to fit my vibe for the night. Like, have either a little glass of wine or if it's during the day, some coffee, some water, some raspberries, like, and then be cozy. Just like
I
yeah.
love it. So do you have a favorite chair?
I have this chair in my studio that has, a cow print cat paw pillow that I sit on. Because when I was a kid, I had a cow collection, um, which was just little porcelain cows. I don't ask, I don't know. I was obsessed with it. And I love cats with a passion, so it's the best of both worlds.
We're really getting deep into the therapy stuff here that you have a pillow that recreates your childhood.
Yeah, no, my studio is kind of very much shaped around my childhood. I have a lot of stuffed animals, like there's Hello Kitty stuff, a, a zebra rug. It's like a dream studio, girly.
S what color lights what I love how specific this is, by the way. So, what color lights? Because 'Cause I've gotta think that makes a difference too, right?
I really like a pink, like a dark pink fuchsia, and I also really like cyan. I think those two. Green is just hideous because you can't make a dark green light for some reason. Scientifically, it doesn't work. And so this bright neon green I really hate. Yeah, I'll go pink or blue or red. Red is really nice too.
But do you change it sometimes depending on your mood?
Yeah,
Okay.
totally.
See, I think all these things are important. I mean, I have conversations with songwriters and they say they don't have a ritual and they spend 10 minutes telling me what their ritual is. But
Yeah,
it's
we don't
almost like
realize it's a ritual.
they're resistant to the idea that they don't want to feel like, oh, I don't want to be channeled into some certain room or something like that. But there's nothing wrong with knowing what makes you most productive, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, I love the fact that you know that you have to have those things. And why not? If that's going to make you more productive, why not put yourself in that space?
Yeah, and it's not like when I'm working with someone else, I demand those things. I just,
Yeah.
it's not gonna be as comfortable. Like I'm not probably not gonna be as cozy, but I'll still work. But it's my own house, so I love to make it as yeah, as nice for me as possible.
All right, last question. So, I do find that songwriters tend to be voracious consumers of other type of art, whether it's reading, visual art. So, how much do you read, or are there other types of visual art that, or sorry, other types of art in general that you consume? But I'd love to know if you do read, who you like to read.
I don't read that much, but when I do read, it's more like self-help. I like to read, The Power of Now is kind of my Bible just to remind myself at times when I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I read that. I have it with me right now and it helps me go to sleep. Like it just I'm a very anxious human, so that kind of book or like a little romantic book. But I'm more into I watch a lot of TV, a lot of TV shows.
Well,
Right
I
now I'm
think,
watching yeah,
yeah, what are you watching now?
The Testaments. It's like part 2 of Handmaid's Tale.
If you are reading a book and you just aren't feeling it, do you have to finish it, or are you okay with setting it aside and never picking it up again?
Yeah, I'll set it aside and never pick it up. I'm just like, "What's the point? I don't like this." Like, I just did that with this book that I was reading. Funny story, and it's cute. It's this love story, and it's becoming a movie, I think. But I stopped caring about the romance, and I'm like, it's going too slow."
So is there a page limit, or you just realize, "Yeah, I'm not feeling this?"
Yeah, I just kind of forget about it. Usually it's like 120 or something. I'm like, "I tried. I gave it a long go."
And that's it for the latest episode of Songwriters on Process. You can find all of the old episodes on all major streaming platforms and probably some minor ones as well. You can also find them on the Songwriters on Process website. I started the site back in 2011, so that means there are hundreds upon hundreds of interviews with some of the world's best songwriters. So take a deep dive into some of those episodes. They are all great. Of course, I'm biased. Also, shameless plug. My book, Desolation, a Heavy Metal Memoir by Mark Morton with Benno Papari, that is me, is out now on Hachette Books and in all major bookstores. Mark is a good friend of mine. He is the guitarist in the metal band Lamb of God. And so we collaborated on his memoir. I'm biased, but that's a damn good book. Again, it is called Desolation, a Heavy Metal Memoir. And lastly, if you want to get in touch, go to the Songwriters on Process website. You can fill out a handy contact form and it'll get to me that way. You can also email me at ben@songwritersonprocess.com. I'm all ears. Send me your comments, your suggestions, your complaints, people you want me to interview. I get great suggestions all the time. I can't respond to all of the emails because I get a lot of them, but I do read all of them. And let me know your thoughts. If you have ideas for people you want me to interview, there's your chance. And with that, I am out. See you next time.